Hi you guys, my name is Cyan and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today, as you can tell by the title, I'm doing another challenge type video where I'm going to be letting my name choose the books that I read for a week. However, I'm going to be using my last name, Gore. Shout out to my husband for having a 4-letter last name. But the reason why is because I tried to do this for my first name, and it's a video that you'll never see because the first book I ended up DNFing. It just went downhill from there. I just wasn't in the mood to read anymore after that. I have already started the first book for this challenge. I'm about 50% of the way through and I know that I'm liking it, so I think this time I can complete it. Yeah, I could have used my name Cyan and just start over and choose different books, but for some reason in my brain, no, not happening. So we're using my last name, and the book that I have already started is The Games Gods Play. This is a new book by Abigail Owen. Look at these sprayed edges. Let's have a moment for them, please. Beautiful. In this book, we are following Lyra or Lyra. I feel like it's Lyra. When she was younger, she was cursed by Zeus to basically be unlovable. Even in friendships, apparently no one really will ever fall in love with her or care for her in that type of manner. And after she was cursed with this as a child, her parents gave her away. So now she is living with the thieves. Thieves are like an order, so they're kind of brought up and trained and raised in that group for a long period of time. And the gods, every single few years or so, they have like a competition trial thing where they are going to each pick a champion and they're going to compete, and whichever person's champion ends up winning these trials, that god gets to be above the other gods, so like the ruler of all the gods. Lyra ends up getting chosen by none other than Hades, the god of the underworld, apparently like the darkest, most dangerous god that everyone kind of hates, and she also hates him. So that's fun. That's all that's going on in this book. We are seeing her and Hades interact with one another because she's his champion. He's helping her along the way. We're seeing her in these trials, and I'm actually on part 5, so like I'm a good chunk through it and I'm really liking it so far. I think the trials are so much fun. I always love trials in books. However, the romance, while there is good banter, it's not quite at the level that I would prefer, and honestly I don't even know how to explain it, because when the banter is there, it's nice and good and I like it. I'm not getting as much from it as I wanted. It's not as playful as it could be. It's not happening that often. I feel like we actually don't even see that many interactions with our characters, but for me, it doesn't bother me that much. It's just it would make it better in my opinion, because I am someone who, when I read a fantasy romance, yeah, I like the world building and the trials and all of that is fun, but heavy on the romance is what I prefer. That's the type of fantasy reader I am, and this one, it's a good mix of both, but I want it to be like 70% romance and 30% other stuff, you know? But it's still going really good so far. I'm gonna continue reading this, and yeah, this is our first book for the letter G. Okay, so last night I did end up finishing up The Games Gods Play, and I liked this book, but there are a few critiques that I do have. First off, I want to say it is such a fun roller coaster of a book. I always loved Trials. I think it was well written and very easy and digestible to read. However, I have a few quips with some of the characters. First off, our main character, Lyra, she was almost too nice, and in fantasies, we don't typically see a super nice main female character. I want someone who is strong, a little bit ruthless. I understand why she was nice. She was honestly nice to the other champions and kind of trying to defy the gods, because think about it. The gods are just choosing these people. They don't care if they live or die. They just want their champion to win so that they can have all the power, and they really don't care that much about these people. They're using them as pawns in a game, and to the gods it's probably fun to like watch, but these are real people. So I get why she's nice to the champions in order to try to defy the gods, but some of the other champions did not care about her, and she needed to stand up and be a little bit ruthless, you know? Another thing is that the romance, it really did fall a little bit flat. It felt more like these two were just really good friends rather than lovers, I guess. I just didn't really feel a romantic connection between the two, and honestly, I feel like Hades is still a bit of a mystery. A big plot point of the story is the fact that Hades has never competed in these games before, and this is the first year he's competing, and he chose Lyra. That's like a huge plot point. So of course he is kind of mysterious. No one knows his true intentions, but you know that he's not just playing this game for one reason this year out of all the years that he could. Why is he doing it all of a sudden? So I guess that's why he's a little bit mysterious, but when it comes to him and the love interest, I wanted them to at least know each other a little bit better. There's also a hellhound in here, and why do I love it? It's a three-headed scary dog, but it's a dog. I love him. What's crazy is that I felt more towards those dogs than I did a specific character in here who dies. I feel like the author made someone die but didn't build a relationship between the reader and that character to where we really cared about their death, and it also just kind of came too quickly out of nowhere. And when a character dies in a book, I feel like, especially because he seemed pretty important, we should get to know that character better and start to like them before they're just offed, because now I felt like no emotional connection to him. That's another quip that I have, but it was still fun. I loved the premise. I think there could have been a little bit more to it, but it was still really good. So I am going to give it 4 stars, and I would recommend it. And whenever she writes more, because this is going to be a series, I will continue it. But now it is time for our second book, and this is a book by an author that I should have definitely read by now because I read one of her books and I really, really liked it, and then I just never picked up more from her, and she is a very loved author, and that is Taylor Jenkins Reid. So I decided to pick up One True Loves. Her husband disappears and then randomly comes back. Turns out he's alive, but she's moved on, so I'm assuming it's gonna have a love triangle going on in there. I also am a little bit scared because I do know that she writes more people-driven books. I don't know how heavy the romance is going to be. I really just don't know what to expect, and I'm a little bit nervous because we all know my attention span this big. So we will see how it goes. It's literally a small book though. It's like 300 pages, so I can do this. Okay, everyone, I have made it 50% of the way through One True Loves. So in this book, we are following Emma. Emma marries her high school sweetheart, and on their 1-year anniversary, he goes on a work trip because he does like the filming for nature documentaries, and she is a travel writer. So literally the day before their 1-year wedding anniversary, he goes on a work trip, and the plane ends up getting lost in like the middle of the Pacific Ocean, which is crazy. Everyone just assumes that, you know, he's a goner. So she is dealing with the grief of losing her husband. Eventually, it is years later, she realizes even though they never found a body, he's not coming back. He's probably dead. And she ends up re-meeting, getting reintroduced, running into her old childhood friend named Sam. Sam used to work at the bookshop that her parents owned, and so now they are kind of becoming an item. But then, right after her and Sam get engaged, her husband is found. He comes back. He is alive, and so of course it's going to cause a lot of issues. Mostly what we have seen in the beginning of this book is her meeting Jesse, her actual husband, and how they became high school sweethearts. And then we see how she really wanted to leave her hometown. Her parents own a bookstore and she never wanted to be an owner of it. She wanted to travel, do all these things. She finally starts doing that. Her and Jesse have this great life together, and then he goes missing, and then we're seeing her dealing with the grief of that and finally being able to move on with Sam. We saw their first date together and it was just so cute. I really like Sam, I'm not gonna lie, but where I'm at now, her husband like just came back and he knows that she's engaged, but he's kind of like, I'm your husband, you know? I was trying to come back to you all this time. I want you to be with me, please ditch Sam. And I get it. It's a huge struggle because I don't know what I would do in this situation at all. It is a crazy situation to be in love with two people, but her life has completely changed. She is now back in her hometown. She's not traveling anymore. She is with Sam. She has actually started to run her parents' bookstore, even though she tried so hard to get away from her hometown and didn't want to do that. Now that she's older, she's realizing that she actually enjoys it. And of course, who she was with Jesse and who she is with Sam are like two completely different people. And the writing is so beautiful. There are so many good quotes. I've been like taking pictures of them on my phone, and I don't do that very often because I just honestly like to enjoy my reading, and I feel like focusing too much on stuff like that kind of hinders my reading experience. But in this one, I just couldn't help it. There are so many quotes. There are a lot that I didn't even take pictures of, but I could have, because it is such a beautiful story, and I'm only halfway through, but I'm really loving it. I'm also getting anxious because it's definitely a love triangle situation, and I don't know who she's gonna end up with. Also, though, like, it's kind of a character study in a way, because, I don't know. Maybe this isn't a common thing, but I feel like it is, where, like, me and my husband, I asked him about this exact situation before ever reading this book, like, a long time ago. I was like, if something happens to me, like, I'm in a coma, and then it's years later, you get married, you have a new wife, you love her, but I wake up from my coma, are you still gonna be with me? And my husband always says, yes, of course I would drop her and go back to you immediately. But it's like, actually seeing it, is that the right thing to do? It's such a struggle because there is no right thing to do. You just have to follow your heart. But like, I don't know what I would do if I was Emma, because this is crazy. But I will say, so far, I like Sam. Also, I'm pretty sure there's a movie based off of this. Yes, it actually says it on the cover. The actors in that movie, I'm not gonna lie, they're not who I imagined for this book. The main female character and Sam didn't imagine for this book. I haven't seen the movie, but I've seen like the trailers for it. I don't think Sam and Emma look like they do in this book, but Jesse definitely does in my opinion. Anyways, that's just a side note, but I'm really liking it. I need to read more Taylor Jenkins Reid. Why haven't I done this before? I don't know why. I stopped at the Seven Husbands, but I need to read more from her. It's good so far. Let's keep going. So last night, I did end up finishing up One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I thoroughly enjoyed this book. It is definitely going to be a 5-star for me. This was just so wholesome. There were so many like great quotes in there. The pull between the back and forth of what our main character should do. But this is like one of the only instances of a love triangle where I genuinely didn't know what she should do, and I enjoyed the fact that it was a love triangle. Now, with that being said, I do think that at some parts it was a little bit slow. It's more of a people-driven book, so it might not hook you at first, but I'm telling you, it is just really thought-provoking in a sense, and I enjoyed the story so much. It wasn't perfect per se. Emma really did frustrate me at some points, especially with some of the decisions that she made while trying to figure out who she was still wanting to be with. But even though she made me so upset, it was still a 5-star for me. I don't know how to explain it. Sometimes a character can really ruin a book for me, or just like bump it down a few points, but in this book I kind of just like looked past that because I loved the story so much that it didn't even matter. So that is this one. Really enjoyed it, really recommend it, and I need to read more from Taylor Jenkins Reid. But moving on, we are now at the R in gore. So the next book that I chose to pick up is Rhapsodic. That just feels wrong, but it's by Thalassa. Anyways, this is the first book in a series. It looks like a fun fantasy. I mean, there's got wings on the cover. Maybe it'll be like a dark fantasy romance. I don't really know what to expect. I'm going into it completely blind, but it's the first in a series. So, yeah, I don't know what the relevance of it being the first in a series is, but I told you anyways. Let's start reading it. am 50% of the way through this book. In this book, we are following Callie. Callie is a siren. When she is a teenager, she ends up offing somebody, and when that happens, she needs help to cover it up. So she calls on the bargainer. The bargainer can do favors for you, but he's gonna need something in return, an IOU of some sort. And after that one encounter, now it's like 8 years later, and throughout the years, she has kept calling on him for favors. So she has gained like over 200 favors that she owes him, and she has all of these beads to signify the favors, and then whenever she does complete a favor for him, one of the beads disappears. He is like a mysterious character. Obviously, he's not a good person because some of the things that he wants you to do for him are morally wrong, I guess. But in this book, we're just like following them throughout the past 8 years, because in the current timeline, she finally sees him for the first time in a while. He just shows up at her room, so she knows that he needs something. And we're getting their past instances together, how they kind of had a connection, but he kind of like burned her along the way and did something to ruin their friendship that they had built. So I'm assuming eventually we're gonna get what happened between them. There's obviously a romantic connection between them as well that's going on. There's also just like the mystery of what is he possibly going to need her for? What favors is he going to ask from her now in the present time? And yeah, it's not great, I'm not gonna lie. It just feels a little bit boring. Some parts of it are very repetitive, and I'm over like the dark, brooding character. I just know my reading style now, and I know that I prefer a good, bantery character that's funny and a little bit goofy. I am so over like the dark, mysterious character right now. I think that's possibly why I'm not loving him. I don't really know. Besides that, the plot, like, there's not much going on. It's just back and forth of him asking her to do these little favors. I'm assuming it's going to progress into something more. I did read the back of the book and it tells you what's gonna happen basically. It says that Fae warriors are going missing and she's gonna end up helping him with that. But like, why aren't we there yet? I'm already 50% of the way through. Get to the point. But anyways, I'm gonna keep reading and we'll see how this goes. It is actually a couple of days later and I've come to the conclusion that this book is going to be a DNF. I am over 50% of the way through, and honestly, I just do not care what happens in this book. I don't care for our characters. I feel like it's a whole lot of back and forth, and they're just kind of doing these like side quests that are pretty boring in my opinion. I don't care about the present or the past scenes that we're getting in this book whatsoever. And there are some books where I can power through slow moments and continue reading because I'm still interested in the overall plot. But for this one, I genuinely picked it up and put it back down over and over and over again, and I was reading it like literally one sentence at a time, and then I would get distracted by my phone. So it's just not the book for me, and I've been trying to be better about if something is not being entertaining and not making me happy, I'm not going to push through. I'm just going to DNF. So that's what I've decided for this one, unfortunately. We now have another book, and so I have decided to pick up The X by Freida McFadden. Freida, you need to find someone else to do your covers, because genuinely, what is this? Why is this the ugliest book I have ever seen? I don't know, but I do love her writing, so I'm going to give it a shot. I, again, am going in blind. I know nothing about this book, but we will see how it goes. Okay, so it's been a good bit later, and I am 50% of the way through The X by Freida McFadden already. This book is just flying by. In this book, we are following two women. Wait, what is the best way to explain this? So in this book, there's a guy named Joel, and in here we are getting two points of views. The first is from his ex-girlfriend, and the second point of view is from his new girlfriend. Basically, his ex is not over the breakup, so she is doing these, well, she's basically stalking him and his new girlfriend and doing all of these things that are kind of weird. During his new girlfriend's point of view, we're following her as like these weird things keep happening to her, and she also is the owner of a bookstore that is failing at the moment, so like all these things keep happening. It's like we don't know what's gonna happen, but we kind of do because we're getting the ex's point of view and what she's doing. I have a feeling that I know what the plot twist is gonna be, but it's still fun to like get a stalker's point of view in a book. I know that sounds a little crazy, but to see someone following their ex, seeing him kissing another girl and then also like going to that girl's apartment and following her. And then the ex also has Joel's location still on her phone, so she's like planning these little chance encounters and meetups where they accidentally run into each other. And like that's interesting to me. It's kind of funny because I feel like a lot of people have had bad experiences with exes, and when they see them move on, it can sting a little bit. So like that's very relatable. I've never gone through the stalking stage. I guess now the stalking stage is done mostly on social media whenever you see an ex move on or something like that. Ever since I've been with my husband, I haven't cared about any exes, but it just feels relatable to a younger me. But anyways, it's interesting to see that. I'm curious to see what she's gonna do because in the prologue it does mention a murder, so obviously someone's gonna die. I don't know who or what's gonna happen, but I'm intrigued to see how this is all gonna wrap up. And it's keeping my attention. It's going by so fast and I am having a good time. So yeah, once again, I think I honestly have no quips with any of Freida's books. I always have a good time and they're fun. Do I think she has the best plot twist and that she's an impeccable writer of her time? Absolutely not. But for me, I love them. I love them. So, yeah, I'm gonna keep reading. I did finish up The X by Freida McFadden. This book is more so interesting because of the drama in there, I guess you could say. You also have like Joel, he's friends with a bunch of couples, so like the girls have a hard time accepting his new girlfriend Cassie into the group. You're learning about secrets that are kept between Joel and his ex, and also his new girlfriend Cassie has some secrets that she's been keeping, and it's just very interesting in that aspect. Do I think it's the best thriller ever? No, but I still had a really fun time while reading this. I would say it's probably sitting at like a 3.75 for me. It was really good. I just liked the drama of it all, I guess you could say. I don't think it's super thrilling. I was able to guess some of the plot twists, but I think that's also comes with me reading a lot of Freida McFadden books, so sometimes I can kind of see where she's going to be heading with her plot twist, but I didn't guess every single aspect of the plot twist, just what the overall twist was going to be. So it was still very interesting to me, and honestly, I kind of would recommend it. It was fun. So that is that one. Now let's do a little bit of a wrap up for all the books we read this week. We started off strong with The Games Gods Play. This one is definitely a 4-star read. I had a fun time. I just wish there was a little bit more from it, but it was still good. Then I read One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is a 5-star. I really enjoyed this book. It was very emotional and it just made me think a lot while I was reading it. And also, I got frustrated with her character at times, but I kind of loved feeling that with her, between liking her and hating her at some points, you know, and also just feeling bad for her. But it was really beautiful and I would highly recommend this one. Then, of course, I did have a DNF, and that was Rhapsodic? Why am I struggling to say this? It's this book. It's a DNF. Can't give it a rating. I just honestly don't care for it at all. But also, that could just be me. I feel like I'm kind of in a phase where I can't do super slow books right now. Like, I really need stuff that just grasps my attention and is fun from the get-go to keep me entertained. That's what I'm looking for, and this was not doing that for me. So there's that one. And then, as I just talked about, The X, 3.75. It was a good time. I would recommend it. I honestly don't know what I would consider Freida's best book. I feel like all of her books are just fun and honestly a little bit mediocre, but I still enjoy them. But I don't know what I personally think is her best work. What do you guys think is Freida's best book? Let me know. But anyways, this one was still good. I would actually recommend it. So those are all the books that I read this week. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts and opinions if you've read any of these books. Give me suggestions if you have any. And yeah, I hope you all have a great reading week and just a great week in general. And I will see you all in my next video. Bye!